pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for coming, everybody. Our only meeting in November. I think that's the first meeting we've missed, actually, because of election. So. We've got a couple town agendas to approve from the 15th. We have a non-public and we have a public. Did you guys both get to review those?
Yes.
Katie?
No, but I wasn't here. So.
No, you weren't here. So you're gonna say into it, maybe?
There's one. The date. Didn't add up.
Yeah, on the non-public, the public session, we actually had it started at 6:45. We entered non-public 7:25 and the public session was reconvened at 7, so there's a timing issue there. Can you go back and look at the notes, Jeff, and find out what the time should be? Please. Anything on the public?
I did not see
I
anything.
do.
Have followed
Motion to
on.
approve.
So move.
All in favor?
Right.
I'll abstain.
And then on the non-publics, just hold off on that until we know what the timing was, please. We got a request from Health First. Is anybody here from Health First? The town had, they're actually requesting another $1,000 from the town as a donation. The town voted back last spring for, to give them $10,000. And they have a list of reasons why they're looking for more money. But. You want me
Is
to
it
read the letter?
10,000 for Health First or the dental? That was dental.
That was Mascoma Healthcare. This is the other.
So again, I'm getting very confused on
Yeah.
the organizations over there in that building.
Yeah.
And how they all intertwine to each other.
This Mascoma Health, if you look and send a letter of support, that's the ones that got the 10,000. This is the tenant Health First for the health side of it, not the dental side.
Okay. Any thoughts on that from either of you?
My thought is that while I support the organization personally, we have continued in the spirit that prior select board set us on the path of where we requested warrant articles so that people in town could determine individually which agencies they wanted their tax dollars to support. And so I would not be in favor of changing that for one organization and setting a precedent. I like what we do now, where each person votes to.
That's what I was just gonna say, that we're in the budgeting season anyway.
Yeah,
And I think
I would be happy to entertain a request for a petition warrant article from them.
That's my thought as well, so. Do we have to vote on that? We don't, we just not gonna accept it, right? So, yeah. Is anybody here from Health First? No? Okay. Thank you. Chief, you're up for your police grant and acceptance. Of
I have 3
50,000.
grant related items. The first one is, I don't need a vote for it, but I wanted to inform you that the New Hampshire Department of Safety has awarded us up to $50,000 for the body cameras and the cruiser cameras. So that one's all set. That came in yesterday. This one I need to have a vote to accept grant money from the Department of Highway Safety in the amount of $15,350, which would go towards DUI patrols, speed patrols, distracted driving patrols, and equipment, speed related equipment such as the radars that we've purchased last year, speed trailers, whichever we can find. So I do need that on the record to accept the $15,350.
Do we have to do any matching money or
There's a
anything?
25% grant, match for it, so, so yes, there's a 25% match.
But we need to spend that anyways, probably.
So not on the patrols, it gets reimbursed. There's no money that we have to put towards that, but any speed related equipment. we
Any
do have
equipment
to-
side of it, there is a,
Yes. So we got $5,000 worth of radars in 3 or 24 for very little money.
yes.
Yeah.
I have a question about the first part, the 50,000 up to.
Yeah.
So is that they haven't determined an amount? Or you purchase the body cameras and if it exceeds, then we cover the difference and,
Correct.
okay,
If
so it's not
if
like,
$100,000 for everything, they'll cover up to
Okay.
50,
so it's not like we're gonna award you an amount that may be up to 50, it's just,
up to 50.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Ryan.
Motion to accept the 15,300 and what,
50,
50? Thank you.
so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nice job, Ryan, on these grants. Keep them coming.
This next grant is from the New Hampshire Department of Safety. I need a vote to accept $11,927, which will go towards the purchase of new mobile data terminals in our police cruisers. It'll outfit 2 of our cars with new laptops, stands, and printers that we use inside the cars. The 2 cars that are left have old technology in them and they are failing. And so I found this grant. This is 100% grant, so there's no match at all. So I just need a vote to accept that.
To accept it or to apply? I've
I've already applied for it, just I have to accept the money now.
Move to accept.
Second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. To accept $11,927.
And I'll just need your signature, Steve, and then carry it at some point. You want to do it now?
The total, Ryan, like $80,000 in
Yeah.
funding, thank you, that's significant, so we appreciate it, and I'm sure the people that pay their taxes appreciate it too. We're even clapping from the.
If I had a hat, I'd take it off. Nice
Both
going,
me.
man.
Yep. Or I can sign it, doesn't.
Early Christmas.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't happen to make it to meetings on a regular basis, Ryan's been consistently doing that since he moved into this position. He's been negotiating deals and finding grant funding all over the place to help offset costs.
Just my initials. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not wrong, Ryan, but for instance, if you equated that to a salary, that's like worth 2 salaries,
Yeah,
those grants,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's great work.
thank you.
Quick claim deed for CVS Realty.
Yeah, this is the final installment, from what I understand. And another piece of land that was not included in the merger that was created when the what was the original business called?
Cozy corner.
Cozy Corner, sorry. Cozy Corner would represent, there were several lots, that were merged by the town, when the town owned them. They were then sold, but the deed information didn't match the parcels that were all supposed to be included, so this is the second corrective deed to make that sale final.
This is what Doreen Lyman brought to us a few meetings ago, I think. Is
Yeah,
that
it was in
right?
September.
Okay.
September was the one they found when they were doing settlement, and then this was another one they found. So this came from our attorney.
We need to wait and sign in front of the fan on this.
We have a notary right here.
She's a notary. I didn't know that. Boy, I'm gonna come to you more often. You're easier than. And with my lifeblood. Yes, sir.
Is it appropriate to ask questions about that now before you guys make a final decision?
Go ahead. What's the question, Ed?
Can you explain to us what exactly the quitclaim deed is?
The quitclaim deed is basically, without rewriting the entire deed, they're making sure that that one parcel that was listed that wasn't included is now included. And it basically gets recorded with the original primary deed.
So.
Well, there's two kinds of deeds, a quick claim
I
deed.
know what a quitclaim
And a
deed is,
warranty
I've given,
deed. Okay.
I know that, yeah, I don't know if everybody else in town does, and I'm not sure that everybody else in town. Understands the situation and circumstances evolving around the sale of this particular piece of property and all the other tax sales that we did a few years ago. And the fact that they all happen at the same time makes me, as a taxpayer sitting on this side of the table, instead of that side of the table, a little leery that I'm gonna be paying for attorney fees to straighten up somebody's mess. And this was pushed through at a time when all these tax sales were pushed through, and we've all realized, or maybe not all of us, but enough of us realize that the majority of those tax sales were pushed through when they shouldn't have been, or under false pretenses, and there were properties that were sold during those tax sales that the deed was not registered, and there is money that has not been located. So my concern is, as a taxpayer, that we went from selling this because the previous administrator that was pushing these sales through at the time had us in a financial bind, and he was trying to figure out a way to make money to get us out of that financial bind, or at least to set it straight, so it didn't get brought to everybody's attention, and by doing that, he screwed us on a bunch of tax sales, and we've been on the hook for attorney fees for those. And this was sold so we could originally make a profit off it. But at this point, I'm wondering what that profit is even gonna be, and how much money we've spent on attorney to try to make it so we can give this property to somebody.
So we've already given the property, our property's already been sold in.
Understood?
So this has already been sold. This is the current owner is selling the part of that property.
I know,
And the piece of the parcels were never put together
I
in
know.
the same order.
right,
That's what the quitclaim is for.
right. But how much money are we spending on all of this? And what is the profit margin on this property at this point?
I don't know if we can equate it to back to forth with what the lawyer fees have been.
Right.
We've been paying lawyers for a lot of things, so,
Right.
to your point.
And, you know, I specifically remember a time it was asked if we could get a better breakdown from our attorney on what money is going to what. Because,
Well, he identifies everything that he does, he works on us for. I mean, I haven't. I
so
don't
then we
break
should
it
be able
down.
to track down how much money we spent on that Cozy Corner property then.
We could, yes.
We could,
Yeah.
right. So,
Is that
I'm-
something you're requesting?
I would request to find out how much we spent as opposed to how much we were looking to make.
Well, and the word make is a,
Well, how much the projected profit from the sale was supposed to be, as opposed to how much we've actually spent on selling a piece of property.
okay.
Projected profit or what it was sold for? So I don't know if they're.
It was sold for less the taxes, I assume.
Is that what you're looking at?
Less than
I guess
Yeah.
I'd like to know, after it was all said and done, what was the municipality of Canaan looking to put into their account from the proceeds of this sale? The proceeds, that's the correct terminology.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure. that you
They wanna see what net proceeds are and then net, and then
Then
the
what we
the
spent
legal
on
fees, what we
attorney
spent on the attorneys.
associated with the sale.
Okay,
Yes,
got it.
thank you. Sorry, Jeff.
That's okay.
Cyanotoxin art plan for RFP for the water system. John, you're gonna talk about that.
Yes,
Got a lot going on with the water and source water and everything else.
yeah, DES has a RFP out and they're asking independent contractors or companies to bid on it. And they want water systems throughout New Hampshire that have an experience with cyanobacteria to bid on it. So the the contractors actually bid and we are a supporting role. And the trick is to study our cyanobacteria and our cyanotoxin, because every lake is a little bit different. You have a different type of cyanobacteria. There are different varieties and some are more alarming than others are. So study the lake and then study how our environment affects that. We have recreation, we have a shallow lake, we have not too many streams coming in. So we're not the same as all of the lakes, and that gives you a different environment for cyanobacteria. But the trick is to study it and then make some recommendations for how we detect it and how we remove it from our water system, so we don't serve it to the customers in the village. So it's a 1-year study, and it would be a contract between DES and an outside firm. But they would like us to participate, and it means that John Coffey and Mason would do some more samples, they collect more water, and it's about $7,500 of their time. Anything to do with shipping will be paid for by the contract.
Okay.
So-
John, I was at, sorry, thank you,
Yeah.
John. John, I was at that meeting, but I'm just curious, I mean, you're confident you and Mason can pick up the extra testing that's required?
We can do testing, but I think we're still negotiating with her on the costs associated. You
Okay.
know, we're working with the state on their programs.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that everything aligns. So the big thing is our source water protection program needs this as part.
Part of that.
I mean, and you're familiar with it. So we need to do this, and if we're gonna be forced into it anyway, I don't see a problem.
Well, the state just keeps pushing it down on us because
Oh, I know,
so,
but it's, you know, it's always there. I mean, if you look
Right.
at it, the material's always there. It's just when you get the bloom.
all right, so you just need a okay from us that they were,
Yeah, and I'd ask that one of you be authorized to sign a letter to that effect. I'll draft it if you like.
And this is next year cost,
Yes,
so
No
we'll add
cost.
it
but
into
it's
the,
not a real
cost.
cost,
it's labor
it's
for
the
them.
version of.
Okay.
It's the version of John's time, John and Mason's time to,
And they're already doing some testing anyway,
Yeah.
so it's just a matter of a more rigid schedule. So. Any questions?
It looks like this is the shape of things to come anyway, correct? We're just kind of a little ahead of the wave.
Well, yeah, the state is, because of the last 2 years, it's gone knee deep, well, shoulder deep in cyanobacteria,
Yeah.
so. Not a bad thing, but they're looking at the towns and the communities to come up with the plans and their own methods of it. How many
27.
27 communities get water from surface water, so in New Hampshire, so we are one of the lucky ones, so. So a motion,
move to go with the testing.
second. I'll second that.
well, I can't
All-
tell if you're seconding it or if you're asking. for
I
me
meant,
to
I
do it.
usually ask,
Yeah.
so I seconded that time. All in favor?
Uh,
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
I mean, this is something we're going to be forced into under mandate, or we accept the.
And it's a situation that doesn't seem to be getting better.
No, you also have a situation, Canaan Street Lake, where you don't have a significant water flow. The turnover time for the water in the lake is a lot slower than others. So it has more time in there to bloom. So this is what got to get a handle on is oxygen levels and sources to find out what can be done to prevent some of this because of the slow water turnover.
Great. As some of you may or may not be aware, Jordan I never get her name.
Regalia.
Bagalio has stepped away from the town from our EMS. What was her title?
MS manager.
Manager, thank you. She's had a long career here, and we're sad to see her go. She was a vital part to the changeover from EMS coming into the town's umbrella. And she is going to be helping out still on a little part-time basis, but really stepping away. So it's leaving us in a little bit of a lurch. We're already looking for another paramedic level provider. So we're looking for two, but in the interim, why don't you tell us what we're
Basically,
doing?
in the short term, when Jordan let us know, we needed to have somebody fill that role from an operational perspective. Jordan is going to continue to assist part-time with some of the administrative tasks and some of the billing while we get transition. But we did reach out to MRI, Municipal Resources, Inc., who provides interim type help, and they help also recruiting different people. We were lucky enough to have a gentleman by the name of Chris Olson, who is very knowledgeable. He's a retired fire, EMS, the whole, everything, has many years' experience. And he's done, as he describes it, 15 or 16 different towns where he's gone into a town that, you know, somebody left or there were some issues, and worked on cleaning up some of the SOPs and SOGs, and working on assisting towns with getting on track for our new process. And because the fire department has recommended that the town move to a full-time fire chief, which will be on the ballot this spring, the town was then looking at how do we start to prepare for that as part of this process. And Chris has stepped into the role. He's been here only a week, and he has already identified a lot of the positives and things that we need to work on, and he's working well with staff. Staff seems to be very happy, and I think we're in a good place. We did get the advertisement out for the paramedic. We have 3 applicants, which will be interviewed next week. A couple of which he actually knows who they are, and one of them's an instructor level. So we have that coming up here in the next week or so. And then in addition, we will be looking to fill the EMS manager's role, which we're also looking at starting the recruiting for that. And we actually may have somebody in-house who may fit that bill, but we don't know. This process is started, and, you know, as daunting as the task looked, it looks like we might be able to get to our full staffing necessity here very quickly. So that's our hope, that's our goal, and we are getting qualified applicants. And Chris is working with the fire department and the EMS. He's, you know, just assisting wherever he can. And we're very happy that where we are. And I would ask that the select board choose one person to attend in the meeting next week when they're doing a couple of the interviews. And depending on your schedules, we can schedule them that way. Yeah, I know, right? So anybody, if you guys, one of you are interested, we'll put that in. There'll be one person from the EMS staff now, Chris, and one of the select board members will be on the committee for the interview.
Next week is Thanksgiving week. Do you have any idea when they're gonna be scheduled?
Well, between Monday and Wednesday. So that's the plan. Thursday is the day that is the last day for applicants. So he was just basically gonna start calling on Friday and set them up as quickly as he can.
I can do Monday or Tuesday, but other than that.
Okay.
I'm good any day.
Well, I mean, do you guys want to pick somebody to do, because right now we have 3 applicants, so we'll be doing 3 interviews, and if you guys want to say.
Sadie's a better interviewer than any of us. But,
Yeah.
Well, well, I know that she's looking at her phone.
I'll
and I
send you
don't-
my schedule.
I'll do it by default, but
Yeah, I can do that if we can make it work around my schedule.
Well, if you give me the limits, he said he would work with,
Okay.
because I said, I know you would be later in the day, and
I can be any time
You're
of day. at
different
this point.
times.
anytime Monday, Tuesday.
yeah, so.
No, I can work from the Canaan branch now, so it's not a big deal. I can do it during the day too, so I'll just send you what I have.
Okay. And I will pass that along, and we'll work on that for next week to get that higher, but I just wanted everybody to be aware that's where we are.
Great.
So we're actually in a much better position than I had anticipated.
Dan,
Where is Chris from? The same name sounds very familiar. Is he-
he lives in Wolfboro, but
Lives in Marlboro?
Yeah, he's
with
been around a
MRI.
lot of places. I can't remember where. Just,
Sounds very familiar, like he's done something in our town.
yeah, the last place he was full-time was in Cotuit.
Kentucky.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. And he basically had every certification known to man on this.
He worked in Enfield too, didn't he, at one point?
Yeah, at one
Or was
point,
that-
yeah, he did help in Enfield with some stuff.
Yeah, it's close. The name sounds familiar. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, great.
I just want to, MRI has been a great organization for us,
Yeah.
and boy, what a resource that is for New Hampshire and other states as well, but
Absolutely.
So we found Chet.
it is how we found Chet.
That's how we
That's
found
how we found Chet.
Yeah.
That's how Jack Rose met.
I mean, it doesn't always work.
I worked with Jack for a year and a half in Enfield through RMI.
Guy, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, he was a huge asset to the town of Caney.
Chet, do you have an update on Lebanon landfill? Did you go to the meeting or?
Well, we had a Zoom meeting on last Thursday.
Yeah.
And that basically, we had an engineering firm come and visit to start doing some research because they're doing a landfill study as well. Part of the issues are, future capacity. They're looking at different methods and opening new sections and where they're gonna go. The unfortunate part is because of all that's happening in that world, that 15% or so increase we got this year is gonna be the same 15% increase for at least the next 4 years.
Per year?
Per year, yeah. So there's a significant increase that's happening and we're gonna be working with them and that we're gonna be having regular meetings now, trying to figure out how we're gonna work this out. But it's a 6-year plan to get through this process. And the other interesting fact is they're still making money on certain recyclables that we're not. Plastics 1 to 7 and paper are free to dump at Lebanon because they're actually turning profits if they're segregated. And right now, we're totally zero
Yeah.
sort.
Zero sort.
So these are things that we'll want to look at. They're actually recycling plastic film as well. So there's some opportunities for, if we can change our flow, that it may be able to help with that. And they are looking at the possibility of even recycling the existing landfill where they're actually digesting parts of it, to try and create some capacity. So this is all part of their program, but yes, things are
It's painful.
going to a more expensive level.
Wes?
So the whole plastic thing. We've already just something to throw out there to you guys to think about. You've already got everybody throwing everything in one container, one.
Zero
bucket.
sort, yep.
So you got a trash bucket, you got a zero sort bucket. I can almost guarantee you what's gonna happen if you try to make everybody separate again. You're gonna end up with more trash than you are zero sort, because people it's easy to do it now.
Right.
When you have 7 different containers that you have to. There's been
I
a study
agree.
on it. That's
Yeah,
all
no, I agree.
know there's
Oh,
been
no,
a study.
I agree. I'm just reporting what we found out at that meeting and
It also takes a lot of milk jugs.
Yep.
To make a bale of plastic.
Yeah.
I've been there.
We are increasing our costs 15% a year. Is that what we're talking about?
The dumping fee, yeah.
Yeah.
just
Tipping fee.
tipping
all the
fees.
dump fees are going up
Yeah.
by that much.
So, yeah.
Which in that case, in this year, I think it was in a 25,000 range, I think, for the dump fees.
What
Yeah,
is
we had
our
it at last meeting.
operating cost for our transfer station at this point?
It's 330 or 340 right in that range.
Mid 300s, right?
Yeah.
Just for operation.
That's operations. That doesn't include any of the capital equipment, which is a whole nother unfortunate conversation about what we're gonna be doing long term.
Oh. I get it.
When we did the deck repair that we did at the dump. When that was opened up, it turns out that the entire compactor frame is rusted out and has holes in it, so we actually couldn't even use that for bearing. We had to go over it, but doesn't have a lot of life left. As is most of the things at the transfer station, so we need to be relooking at the whole program as to how we're doing it.
Has anybody revisited? Is there anybody helping us look for and procure grants at this point? I know you guys got a lot going on, right? But at one time, at the beginning of last year, I had brought a couple options to the municipality of people who are seasoned, effective grant writers who said they would help us research and write grants for $0 to them. Have we pursued that yet?
This is the first I'm aware that existed. So I will take that information.
And touch base when you can,
I think
because,
our-
you know, and
Another step that we need to take is doing some, and I know we've done it in the past, but. A current comprehensive study of what we want to do, and I think. It would be fantastic if we had some people in town that were interested in participating, like maybe Wesley. Would be great on
He has
a.
his hand up.
So we
NRA over there.
we need to have a comprehensive look, because over the next
Yeah.
2 to 5 years, there's gonna have to be some significant change.
So I-
Both from equipment failure, potential, and everything else, so.
So I met with, on two separate occasions within a, say, 2.5 year or so timeframe, I met with the NRA over there 2 different times with 2 different people. Well, 2 different representatives from the NRA and 2 different people on the municipality end of it. And the design flow that the NRA came up with both times was the same thing. So it's just a matter of putting dollars to that, and I get, it's been even a few more months and we're getting some different costs associated, so maybe we revisit and see if there's other programs we can put into place, but. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly on the horizon and on the radar still, Dan, but there's been some other things pressing and,
I
the
understand.
money's not there. So.
Yeah.
The last meeting, I have a question. Is that the one where a former town employee showed up and represented themselves as still a town employee and had the meeting before you and Jack got there?
It's nice to be on this side of the
Is
table.
that?
Yeah, when Jack and I showed up, Mike Sampson was already there, still strutting around like he was the town administrator. And we had to let the gentleman know that he wasn't when Mike saw us and got in his car and left. So then the gentleman regrouped and actually talked to the representatives from the municipality and got a real game plan together and actually put together a proposal and presented it to the municipality of the layout that they thought would be most effective for what we have over there. One of which I'm thankful to see, which was my suggestion years ago, get the metal off the damn ground and into a dumpster so we can actually make $1 off it. I was very happy to see that that is happening.
Baby steps.
So I
Maybe,
guess,
and I get it, dude. Believe me, I sat where Scott was. I understand there's a lot more to this than everybody understands, but.
There's a lot
For us
more to
on this
that,
side,
I mean.
Keep kicking the can and.
Yeah, and that was the problem over there, that metal too is just, we are very fortunate nobody got injured
Oh, yeah.
over there with it on the ground.
so the rest of my question, Dan, was
Yes.
going to be, do you feel like then after that, you were able to have a meeting where you were able to effectively communicate what the town right now is looking to do?
Yes.
Okay.
I
thank you.
feel Jack Wozmak, myself, and the representative from NRA, we walked around that particular day for about an hour and a half.
Okay, that's
And we
what I
visited
wanted to know.
each station in that transfer station multiple times. And we ran different ideas by each other. Wozmak had ideas, I had ideas, a gentleman from the NRA had ideas, and by the time that hour and a half or so was over, the 3 of us have kind of merged those ideas together for something that seems like it would be a working transfer station. The one thing we did all agree on, including the gentleman from NRA and both representatives, is the transfer station we have now. You can bring trash there and you can take trash out of there. That's about the only thing that actually functions. It's not a functioning, real transfer station. And it's just, so I get it, these things take time, but one of my last missions that I was on, and it might even have been in the week and a half or so that I worked with Chet, was I was finding money for the transfer station. And we had come up with about 60 grand at that point. There was a 12,000 here, a 40,000 there, and I get it, it goes quick. But as far as the grant opportunities go, that's where I would like to focus my time. And if you don't mind if I stop in and chat with you, chat about that.
Always willing to take the help.
Okay, yep,
And I'd like to know, I'd like to see what we were given,
yeah, I think I still have it.
okay,
Yeah,
what the plan was. I
Think it'd be
mean,
good.
it's always good to have a starting place and everything else.
On the Zoom meeting, did they mention anything about the revenue coming in from their recycle efforts?
They did, but that doesn't get shared. It's the reason they do it for free, because they're making a little bit of money.
I get it, but to me, this is the kind of selling point with me, the customer who doesn't want to sort anything. If I'm gonna pay 15% more, why should I sort it myself? You know what I mean? If it's gonna actually make some money,
it's not gonna make any money for the town to offset. The issue then just becomes. Are we, because remember, even all recycling, even in the zero sort. Doesn't really have much value. And it's a cost just almost the same as recycling, so, I mean, as regular
Well, you
municipal
still have
solid
to-
waste, so.
Yeah, we're getting rid of stuff.
So the issue becomes. If we can, we have two things we have to look at. We have to look at the revenue side, like, we don't. The town, this is truly just an expense, there's no.
Yeah.
Nothing associated with dumping, which, we then kind of attract surrounding. Items. Or whatever you wanna call it, but the other thing is the only other thing we can do is try to reduce costs, and if we can figure out a way. Cause I'm not gonna go spend $10,000 on a compactor if it's only gonna save us, $500 a year, it's, it's gotta have a reasonable
But I mean, there's
payback
no-
period, so.
They're not getting any revenue stream at all from, I mean, they're not selling the paper.
They're selling the paper, yes.
Okay.
They're getting
They're not
we're
gonna
not.
publish their revenue.
The only thing I will
Okay.
say is, I mean, they said what they were getting per ton, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's
that. I
never
didn't
gonna
write
be
that
a
down.
lot.
But the issue becomes, and if it doesn't cost us additional money, if we reduce enough tipping fees to adjust the cost. It does reduce their cost, which then means maybe we go up less in the future. I mean, it's like that,
Right. It doesn't come out where you think it comes out.
Right.
It might come out something else.
right.
Wes is in line here, patiently waiting.
There's a couple things. With the compactors, he was saying the one that is over there is. Like junk, which I believe it, because I work on compactors all day long. I know those things are old. The one thing that I will suggest, when we go, if we don't do a committee or whatever. When you guys go to buy a new one. Make sure you buy the right size compactor. Because the compactors that are over there are not the right size. You could increase the tonnage in your box and save on your haul rate.
The one that's in the trailer,
Yeah.
it only has a 9 foot run,
Push, yeah.
so it's.
The compactors that are over there, I think one's a 4-yarder, one's a 2-yarder.
Were they bought used or something?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
The compactor, I work for Casella. We actually load. Zero sort recycling, some of the stuff that comes from Canaan. They dump it on the floor in White River, they load it in the 53-foot trailers. They have a 8-yard compactor. The guy gets anywhere between 22 and 27 ton every trailer load. Depending on what comes
About
in.
7,000 more than we got.
You can even explode a roof with that
That
compactor.
you can.
I will tell you, I have scale slips from when we were taking stuff to Maine, and we were supposed to be hauling between 16 and 18 ton, and we were hauling 6 or 7. For years.
Yeah.
And
It's-
years.
But that was only half a trailer, that was the
A
problem.
lot of it is
Exactly,
because the
because we can't get it in because we
compactor.
don't have the right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of reasons for that too, Dan. There was, it's a scheduling thing and it was also the size of the compactor, so,
Every trip for years, right, size of the compactor, exactly, that's my point, that's my point, exactly. So if we're gonna purchase stuff, I'm with Wes, let's make sure. we
Because
purchase right.
the only purchase I know that was new is the one that's currently being used on the recycling. And that was bought back in the early 1980s when it originally was set up over there.
Right.
Because I was the
Were you
one
born yet?
hauling the box.
I was.
I mean, I think anybody
An
who,
encyclopedia over there.
anybody with that,
Encyclopedia over there.
it's only a good deal if it actually works for you.
Right.
So just because something is a lesser price doesn't mean it's a good deal.
Right.
The bulldozer, perfect case example, the excavator, the old excavator, it's too big for what we needed, it's great if you just wanna leave it in the pit and pay somebody to get in it. But because it was cheaper, doesn't mean you buy it, it was too big. The dozer was broken,
let's stay on topic here.
that is on topic, spend my fucking tax money right, that's topic. That's on topic, dude.
On the flip side of that, if sometime. You guys wanna meet. I have no problem going over there and going over the compactors with you and tell you what I think's wrong with them and I don't want no money or any of that. I do it.
Well, I
If you
appreciate
guys
that.
want
So
me-
we'll put something together, Wes, because
Yeah, once
like I
once
said, we've got some other plans out there that.
once I
older,
get
that's just
the
it.
background information we have now and we can start talking about the whole thing, I would love to do that.
I have no problem.
Thank you.
I think he's helped fix things before, haven't you, Leslie? Yeah. We're good with Randall?
All right,
One more.
yes.
So, I know I've asked this question before. And I know that you guys are busy or whatever, but. So when our price goes up, you guys are remembering to go up on Orange's price, right?
So that's an annual contract and we have gone up on, I believe, have we? Yeah,
Yeah, we increased it by the percentage of the transfer station budget.
I just want to make sure
Karen
it
doesn't let
covers their
him, doesn't let him
trash.
get away with it.
yeah. I mean, we're locked in for, we're locked in with Lebanon for a year as well, so.
Good point,
Thanks.
though, thank
Yeah.
you.
Has there been any sort of an analysis done on how much trash they bring? So does anyone know how much we spend to get rid of Orange's trash to how much they bring, you know what I
No.
mean? Have we, so I know that there's an annual contract that we renew. And we can go up to 15% for Orange, but if it's costing us 20% of Orange, you know what I mean? We're still out of money. So maybe it makes sense to see how many households are actually using our transfer station. Do they have a green dump sticker like we do? And why don't we give everybody from Orange a different colored dump sticker so we can actually track how many people?
Orange does have a different.
So then we should be able to fairly easily have an analysis of how many households from
Well,
Orange.
you have to have JR count the stickers there and that might be difficult to
He
do.
knows everybody by name, last name.
Yeah, but don't we have it registered when we hand a dump sticker out? Don't we
Yeah,
write
the
down
issue,
who that
the
goes?
issue right now,
Yeah.
and this is
Okay,
something
and-
that. No, and that's the problem.
No, because we don't have changed the colors.
It
every
hasn't
year.
been
We don't
changed
have- we
in
don't-
12 years.
Right,
So everything that's been out in the last 12 years are still out on cars and there's some of them that have 10 in a household.
and that hasn't
Okay.
changed since you were on
We
the board
just
here.
went through dump stickers.
So the issue now is, one of the things that we need to look at, we gotta look at how we're gonna address this. Are we gonna charge a sticker fee but we need to start having annual stickers. Our ordinance actually calls for an annual redo of the stickers. But it's about $1,000 just to buy the stickers by the time you get done. So,
And then you're still dealing with
Because we
2
just
years
did
with the
those
stickers at any
stickers.
given time because
right,
it's based
We
on when
just
you
did
register your
new
vehicles.
stickers this last spring.
Yeah.
And those are supposed to be, so all we have to do is you get the new sticker like you do on your registration for your auto to add to it.
But yeah, cause the issue has been, there was dates on them originally, now that's been scratched off and there's no dates.
Yeah, what about a barcode system?
Well, now we're gonna spend more money. Right now, we gotta fix a little bit of stuff and let's, changing the stickers once would actually kind of give us a clue as to what we're dealing with this
Yeah.
year.
Make 'em pink,
Right, everybody has to come get a new sticker.
right? And has there been any talk of an annual cost associated with stickers?
We have had a brief discussion. It's actually something that needs to be an agenda item where we actually have a hearing and talk about what are we gonna do about fees? Cause it's not just dump sticker fees. We haven't addressed things like building inspection fees in years, like all of our fees need to be just reviewed and decided as to what needs to happen. So, but these are things that are coming. We've been digging out of a pretty deep swamp for the
Stay
last
tuned
few
to the
months.
agenda.
Mary Ann, you're up. Your favorite day.
With today's presentation, we really just wanted to give you a summary of getting ready for the year end.
Yep.
And preparing for the audit. The first slide is for cash flow and revenue, let's do a summary. Find the machine first. There we go. So after we paid the November 1st taxes, the general fund bank account balance was around $30,000 the first week, so we could make a draw on the tax anticipation note. We've been actively collecting property taxes, so we should be able to pay it back next week. Property taxes are due December 1st and they're being collected. Water and sewer Q2 and Q3 have been mailed out and those are currently being collected as well. We set the tax rate I put a snip of page 4 of the tax rate, and Monica also posted all of our tax rate documents online on the tax collector webpage. People are curious and seeing past years. After we went through the process with the Department of Revenue, our fund balance for the year came in at 326,649, which is about 1.66% of our total tax.
And just so everybody's aware, because this is still drafted and all of that, there's items that we haven't transferred or, and an example I can give you is the money that was raised by Warren article a couple years ago was $65,000 or $66,000. It was supposed to go to the community center. And it hasn't been transferred, so that's in there, so this number, when all of these, the audit is finalized, will be reduced.
Right,
Because
that's
that-
without taking out.
There's a few things
Spoken
that
for
still
a
have,
fund.
we have a few liabilities to address in there, so.
And then Carrie Ann, that puts us in the lowest 5% of the state, of towns in the state, is that?
Yeah,
what-
those are in the next slide.
Oh.
The next slide, the outstanding audit items that haven't been included in that fund balance number. I know it came up during last year's budget season. We never made this transfer for the sale of Cozy Corner for 66,000. And that was the first lot that was sold. That wasn't the lot from last year. So that would need to be transferred to the capital reserve fund, and that would affect fund balance. And then we currently don't have our accrued vacation time for employees on the books. So moving the accrued vacation time into a liability account would go against fund balance.
John, can you please be quiet? Thank you.
Then the next slide is where I put the link up there if anyone's interested. The New Hampshire Public Finance Consortium has a website that allows you to look at all the New Hampshire towns, their financials. You can run comparison graphs and look at your surrounding neighbors. And it's been really helpful for me to get my head wrapped around our financial position. There's 234 New Hampshire towns and cities listed on there. The last year that's reported on the website is 2022. So what I did was looked at all the towns' fund balance compared to their total tax commitment to calculate everybody's percentage. And we came in the 4th lowest in the state in 2022, and our fund balance was 2.9%. The 2023 data hasn't been updated on the website, and in 2022, there were only 12 towns and cities that were below the Department of Revenue's 5% recommended balance. And our balance for 2024 was 1.66%.
Is there any way to get a breakdown of, it's like 10 years worth of debt here and to see
Yeah.
where Canaan sat over the course of the decade?
Yeah,
If
we
you go
have
on
it.
that website, you can go back to 2012, I believe.
2012? What
Yeah.
website is it again, Carrie?
NHPFC.org.
NHPFC.org.
It's
Thank you.
called the New Hampshire Public Finance Consortium, and you can pull graphs and compare them, like side to each other.
Thank you.
gonna be attached to the meeting notes?
We can post it. Thank you. And the other fund, the EMS outside fund, we have that big receivables amount that's on the books. Back in July, we wrote off $24,580 was written off because we had agreed anything below $250, we weren't gonna bother to collect. And then as far as we can tell by the reports we get, it does look like the collections process has been increasing what we're receiving. Normally, most months, we've been bringing in $20,000 to $30,000 in insurance revenue. August and September, we collected in the 40,000. And then the month of October, we ended up getting $69,061. So without being able to see individual patient information, it does look like we're collecting on old receivable amounts. And looking at the years.
So I have a
that-
question on that, Carrie, I'm sorry. So you're saying we averaged 20 to 30,000? And for the 3 months, we collected 109,000, that's over $30,000 a month, so.
Well, before we started the collections process in July, we were only bringing in the 20 to.
Oh, okay, all right,
30,000.
okay, thank you, sorry.
And then, yeah, we signed the contract when the process started, and there's definitely been an uptick in how much we're bringing in.
Got it.
Wow.
So it looks like it was worth
Yeah.
paying the extra amount. And then Chet and I were looking at how much we could possibly write off in the year, at year end with the auditor. So the next slide was just a graph trying to compare the different years. 2019 was the first year that we have receivables out there. The orangish line's 2020, the green line's 2021, blue is 2022, and the maroon is 2023. So you can see in July how our receivable amount decreased because we brought in more claims. And then basically 2019 and 2020 are flatlined. So those would be the 2 years we would look at writing off because we're not.
We're never gonna collect it, so.
Yeah.
But we've been carrying it as an asset to the town. It's kind of like fake money, so it's,
Yeah, basically because we have
we've been
the,
boosting our
we've been holding
unassigned
the
fund
million-
balance for money we'll never collect.
right, we have $1 million receivable line that's been carried and they go back to 2019. And for 2019 and 2020, there's about 90,000 per year that's still uncollected. And if we start writing that off, it will go against our fund balance. And therefore, and we're kind of down at the bottom because we did use most of the fund balance purchasing the ambulance this year.
And the next slide shows that in dollar amount. And then.
I'm getting a heavy weight. I'm sorry, I'm messing up your whole.
So,
Yeah.
at the end of October, we had $1,087,690 in our receivable amount, but broke that out by year for everyone to see. So as we start deciding how to go about the write-off process, we can see by year how much it's gonna affect. Whatever we write off is gonna negatively affect the EMS fund balance. They're still turning a profit if you look at revenue over expenses, but now we have to correct the last 5 years of receivables,
It's fake money, so.
big money.
Carrie Ann, when you were saying about the, these balloon months that we've had these last few, how far back do you think you might be collecting from? Not even from that, it's only from this current year?
No,
Majorities from 2023, for the
23,
more
okay.
recent ones that people remember with the bills for.
Yeah,
but we turned everything over to the collections. right?
Yes,
Yeah, so we don't,
so they could be going back
yes.
further.
they could be, and it could be harder to get, and,
Yeah,
it's hard
yeah.
enough to get money out of that
Yeah.
whole process anyways, but. But going forward, it should be better. We should be getting, because the current stuff should be easier to get.
Yeah, at some point drop off.
And the last slide is just a couple bullet points on how it would affect the EMS fund balance. So in March, the warrant article spent the remaining balance of the EMS revolving fund to purchase the ambulance. So we decided to spend all of it to buy the ambulance. I'm looking at our revenue and expenses, and it looks like our profit so far is 38,000, so probably by year end, we'll have a fund balance of 50,000. So even if we write off 1 year, it's gonna go wonky for a couple years and have a negative fund balance as we write off the old stuff. 2019 to 2022, the uncollectible receivable amount totals 488,000.
And the good news is that the profit there should continue to increase because we're adding people to cover the money that we can make and
Yeah, the
transfer, so.
facility transfers that started in 2022 are when the funds started making money.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's just one hit to the unassigned fund balance.
Yeah.
Hold on, Dan. Sorry, go ahead.
And anyone, have we revisited, talking with Grafton about the money that we hemorrhage. And,
So we've talked about it several times, but we have not actually approached them on it, so, yeah.
what did the talks consist of? Is there any sort of a plan? Are we gonna try to get them into a contract where they actually pay a year?
So we've, like I said, we've talked about it, we have not come up with a decision on how we're gonna approach it, so.
Cause I think a lot of people don't realize that, and I understand as a neighboring town, we need to help each other out, but there's a difference between helping and taking advantage of. And, we spend an astronomical amount of money servicing Grafton with our ambulance. And there is payments that are supposed to be collected that they just don't pay. So
Wes?
I got a question on that.
Yep.
I'm not so sure we can charge because of mutual aid stuff.
So it's a little bit different. It's not like, it's not set up the same way as fire is, so,
Okay.
all right, there are differences, so.
Well, and that is one thing that we talked about. So when we had a contract with them before, it was more like we would respond on the second tone or something. So similar to what Lebanon has a contract with Enfield for. So it was a specific, it wasn't just mutual aid.
Yeah,
And
and it
that was
wasn't,
a while ago.
it wasn't charging for every single call, it was
Yeah.
some,
They actually have I think it's a new ambulance going in right now. They just bought it and it's gonna be active as of Friday
Yeah.
and. But I think the two people who basically operate their ambulance are also
Work
staff
for
here
us,
as well.
Yes.
they
Well,
are.
and I think about a year ago that Rick and Hugh changed some things for when we would respond. Like how urgently or something. I remember
Yeah,
Rick
I'm
saying
sure
like
if
we
it's
need
still
to
in
pull
place,
back,
then-
yeah.
And all of these things are gonna be revisited now with Chris,
Yeah.
who's our interim, because. These are all part of the conversations that we wanna have is getting all of this stuff, and he's also. Gonna help looking at equipment replacement and things like that, so we're gonna have a comprehensive plan in place once we get through this.
John, you had something?
Yeah, I think it doesn't Lebanon have a contract, a flat fee with them.
With Enfield?
With Enfield, yeah.
Yeah, for certain times of the day
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
whatever.
they
yeah.
do it on a certain week, if it's on a weekend, if it's at night, the whole nine yards.
Yeah, because they were covering 6 AM to 6 PM. Lebanon was covering.
Yeah, cause I think I remember something about the fact that there is a certain amount of time per year that actually qualifies a mutual aid. If I remember right, was something just to kind of think of, I think maybe all of that talk of revamping the whole thing and getting the service up and going. I remember talking with Jordan and John, when we were discussing a certain amount of calls a year constitute mutual aid. So that's a minimal, above that, you can do other things.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted,
Yeah, yeah, but there are availabilities to have a service contract.
yeah, because I know Enfield, because of their lost personnel of retirement.
Yeah.
They have a contract that's 6 AM to 6 PM. Lebanon covers first call, and then 6 PM to overnight. Enfield covers their own.
Carrie Ann, I want to thank you for continuing to bring pertinent information, digging deep and finding new ways to find us, how much poorer we are. As a town. It is important that we know our position, so I appreciate that. Really does mean a lot. So.
Thank you.
Reservoir boundary survey.
Yeah, based on some confusion about the boundary location. Horizons Engineering, who is the engineer who did the intake design plan. And we're trying to get this up on the screen for you so everybody can see it. I apologize. But one thing we have verified, and everybody knows about Kissing Rock, I guess, and that's where the boundary goes, and it's been there for many years. Actually, the one thing we've uncovered is the maps that go back to 1977 show the same location. Now a boundary, see if you can blow that up. A boundary survey has been done of what the actual setback looks like and where the boundary is. It's only about 8 feet beyond the intake at this point. And the person, the property that was questioning has a property pin that's actually
towards their side of it, so that particular property does not by survey have access to the lake portion of it, only to the reservoir portion, so that has been one of the questions, and had the town moved it? No, the town hadn't moved it while it was being set this year. A state representative who was out in the field with John had him put it a little further out, but then they decided to back away and put it back where it originally was, but even its original location, it's where it's been evidently
So-
since 1977.
Yeah, so to be clear, it wasn't the landmarks that we changed, it was
Correct.
that we arched the boundary
We arced the
into the
boundary,
lake
correct.
more, so.
So,
And that was based
and it's
on
only
the
about
recommendation
8
from the state.
and now that this survey has taken place and it shows that the boundary markers are only 8 feet from the intake. One of the issues now is the state could come in and say, well, that's too close.
Yeah.
And just move the boundary, and that is part of the state reservoir issue, so I think that's a very high possibility, I shouldn't say probability. But it, that could happen, so we wanted to verify and make sure we were on the right page, that we're doing, following the process that's been in place, and that's what we have, verified.
We've had several, older people, like myself,
Say that
that
again?
actually told us where Kitchen Rock was, and actually brought me down to the point where the land was marketable.
You didn't bring me there, John.
No,
You're not just tight.
it's interesting, because everyone talks about it, and the rock has slipped into the lake, but still is on the surface.
Huh.
So that's,
But we also have an iron pin that also,
yeah, well, that was the key, she
Yeah.
brought up where the iron pin was, that's the key to it.
Yeah.
And it's about 60 feet different from where the state thought it was. That's a big difference.
yeah,
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting, but is there an opportunity for me to jump in from Zoom?
who is this?
This is attorney Michaela Dunn. I represent Gary and Karen Webb.
Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely. So I do want to point out that we are still waiting for responses to our 91A request that was on last meeting's agenda. But it's an important point of clarification here that any inquiry was not into the two endpoints of the boundary. Our inquiry was into the town's placement of the buoys, which is controlled by an administrative code for the DES. The question being that the curvature that was added onto the buoys is not what that administrative code requires. I understand there was some comment about whether or not the state would come in and request, because of the close proximity from the new location of the intake. And I would like to clarify that for the administrative code of an ENV-DW 902.10, any change to that would require a formal rulemaking process that would be initiated by the town. So that is not going to come from the state on high to tell you where to put the boundary. It will be the responsibility of the town to open up for public comment. Nevertheless, that change was made to the buoys for at minimum this season, if not seasons prior, without the proper rulemaking process. So I do invite a little bit more comment as to the status of the buoys and whether or not the intention is to respect and adhere to the proper DES code until that change is made.
So the buoy line is straight across the lake. This year, DES requested us to extend it out. They actually came to us and mentioned that it should go out further away from the intake. I and John actually had a conversation and we took that as a go-ahead to change the line of buoys to an arc shape. After the fact, the state came back and said, oh, no, that's not what we meant. Well, that's what we meant, but that's, there's a process. We were not aware of that. So we moved the buoys back to a straight line across the reservoir. So that was where the confusion came up this summer. I'll take responsibility for that.
I'll take responsibility.
Well, John can take responsibility for that. But yeah, and I want to apologize. That we were going under the suggestion from the state DES department to do that, so.
I understand, and I do have access to the documents. For example, I have emails from the commissioner, Robert Scott, and I understand what you're referencing. For the point of putting it on the record, I want to say that my interpretation of that is not that they instructed you to make the curve. I think it was pretty clear that they did reference the administrative rulemaking process. But if we're on the same page that as of right now, the buoys will be on the same line, then I don't have any further comment.
If the buoys are on that same line, then the lot will be landlocked. That's what's being pointed out here. That lot will be completely within the reservoir.
The original endpoints of the straight
Yes.
line.
Yes.
Yeah,
We did have that, we actually brought people from the state and our surveyors to show. And we have the data back from 1953, 1977, 1979, and more recently this past summer.
So what about the prior surveys that were done? And
And we
that,
were the survey that's kind of put into an arc that was submitted by the landowner. And there was never an arc, it was a straight line all along.
right, but if we use the straight line according to the original markers, that leaves a few hundred feet of waterfront access for the landowners.
You
should
should
caution
caution
No, there-
that you're
if
speaking
you
to
look at the
someone's
property
attorney and
bed.
everything can be used
Okay,
in the
I
court of
just-
law.
I just-
So maybe we want our attorney to speak with that
Yeah.
person's attorney instead of sitting here spitballing things, so she can come back and say, well, you said it.
The most
Find
recent
out.
survey that's been
Public
sent to
regs.
the state, that was the as-built survey with the exact same locations that's on the previous 5 maps with the straight line,
Yeah,
shows their property within the reservoir.
provenance, as they say.
We pay an attorney. Use it.
all right. That's gonna end the conversation on the reservoir boundary survey.
Can I make one point of clarification?
I don't think you need to, but if you'd like to speak one more time, you can.
I just want to clarify that this document will be included in the 91A response that I expect promptly.
Okay, it's all public information, right?
So if we're having one more,
Thank you.
Next up. It's gonna be a quick meeting. Credit card policy and limits. This is back from a revision 1.
And basically, this is prompted for a couple of reasons. One is, the Human Services Director has a frequent need of a card, and, you know, we wanted to request that, we would have a 4th town card that would be presented, would be allowed to be used by the Human Services Department. And in addition, one of the issues we're having is we have 3 cards that have a collective limit of $2,000. And whenever anybody's gonna have to go out and make a purchase that's already been approved,
They have to go.
we
make
have to
sure.
go back and check what's available, who, you know, it becomes very difficult. So each card should have its own limit at that level. I mean, that's.
Are the other 3
typically works.
cards assigned to specific people? They are, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
town administrator has one, the finance manager has one, and the police chief.
it's better than the hotel that had one when I first came on the board.
You came on the board, everybody had the number, Dan, so it didn't matter, you didn't need the card.
But
Okay,
and we have policies in place for how they're used,
Yep.
and we wanna confirm this. This was just, you know, a first recommendation to think that, you know, if we had the cards have a $2,500 limit, you know, all the policies still exist. You gotta get purchase orders signed, you know, all of those things, but you know, in today's world, if they gotta go buy a part for the highway department, it's usually like $1,000 to $1,500 anymore.
is the card holder's name on the card?
Yes.
It is, okay,
Yes,
okay.
just by checking me. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think mine's been used by me more than once.
I have
Yeah.
questions, of course.
Yeah.
Under credit limit, it says each card will have a $2,500 limit.
Right.
And then under multiple transactions, it says it says cardholders should know that while individual transactions are capped at 2,500, they may conduct multiple transactions as long as the overall outstanding balance does not exceed 10,000. So that seems to contradict a $2,500 limit.
Well, technically, and we can clarify that. What we had in the past is we had, where I was before, we had $25,000 limit on the cards, and there was a 10, a 2, and a 5, and depending on which department they were for. And when there was a large enough purchase on occasion, you could go online and switch the credit limit for one specific card for one specific purchase if you actually need it. Our goal is not to use cards hardly at all, because we want to have credit setups with each of our vendors. But there's becoming more and more times where we have to go use a card, like in order to get a part. About 2 weeks ago, Garen had to go down to Claremont to buy a part, and the only way they would do it was with a card.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it does happen that way.
So does it mean that each card has a limit of 2,500 and then the aggregate total for the town is 10,000?
Correct.
Okay, so if we can spell it out that way, as
Right.
long as the total balance for the town
Right.
does not exceed 10,000, then I think that would make sense.
Okay.
Well, and I think
And-
you're gonna have a number of cards that sit there, because if we end up adding a fifth card, then we're gonna go change the policy.
Which
So
I think
don't
that we
that's-
should add a fifth card, I mean, I.
Well, it would be a
Fourth
fourth card for Monica.
He's saying if we had another
If
person.
we
at
ended
some
up
point, we
having
had
a
to do
need
it.
for a fifth card, then we need to
Because
go back and
the-
redraw the
The
policy.
select board chair
Right.
needed a card to go do things.
So I don't know how we can word that, so it's,
So if it were to say
2,500 per
something,
cap,
yeah, like,
card.
Or to adjust itself with the addition of future cards, right?
Yeah.
To stay at that $10,000 cap, then it just goes to $2,000 a piece because it's worded in there.
Right.
That it adjusts itself, so each card, so it stays within
I
the 10 cap, maybe?
I think we just keep the 10 cap off of it and just do it $2,500 per card.
right, or if it says cardholder should note that while individual transactions are capped at 2,500, they may conduct multiple transactions. I would say something like with approval, but I don't know who's gonna do that approval. I don't know if we designate that responsibility to Chet, which I wouldn't have a problem with.
Yeah.
As long as the overall outstanding balance does not exceed the town's credit limit or
Right.
credit card limit.
Yeah.
Something like that.
The town, yeah, the town's credit limit.
But I would think that we would want for you to approve that. And Carrie Ann's gonna have to tell you what.
I was gonna say Carrie Ann's gonna have to give him the numbers in
Yeah.
there.
And then my question before was,
So don't piss her off.
it says the transaction limit for individual purchases is set at 2,500. No single transaction can exceed this amount. So is that true now? Because in the past, that was not true. It was just, we didn't want someone to exceed that, but there was no automatic control in place to stop it.
Well, we'd like it to be stopped unless somebody addresses it a second.
Okay, so you're going to ask the car provider to set each one at a max of 25.
It's gonna be a $2,500 limit. We'll have a $10,000 aggregate, and then. If we had to do something outside of that, we can make like a 1-day adjustment.
Yeah, okay. And then this sentence, it says cardholders are required to submit receipts of purchases noting department accounts to charge to the finance department by the due date. I just think that could be slightly clearer, like you have to submit receipts and you have to indicate which a department or which account it goes to, and they have to be submitted to the finance department. Just because it's a little confusing.
On what payment obligations?
Yeah, on payment obligations. And then on the last page, if it could say that it was approved by the select board instead of select men. Then I would. be willing to sign that.
I'm sorry.
Takes more.
Oh, my God, it's the select board.
This land board went through painstaking detail over the course of a year to look at every
That's okay.
document there was.
You
and
know what?
records,
It
every
makes it all better. It's nothing, there's no issues.
There are lots of things in town office say select board now, so we're baby steps.
We've been doing that with all of them, and at one time I did say selectmen on purpose, even though it was select board, and just our eyes get big.
Sending a check.
So,
So those are my requests.
okay, we'll make some edits and we'll bring this back at the next meeting.
Okay. But if you want us to vote to approve a card right now
Yes, that
for
would be
Monica,
great.
then I will move that we do that.
I second. All in favor?
I,
I'm gonna abstain because I think we should have a policy in place before we get more cards, but nothing
Well,
against.
again, it goes into, it stays in the, right now, it's currently in the $2,000 aggregate.
Yeah. Okay,
It's just having the physical ability to.
we can move forward.
probably won't even have the card before you do the policy.
Probably not. Well, they tend to like to give you cards.
Yeah.
Is Bob talking about, highway crew leader or you?
Well, I just, the
Since
highway,
Bob's here.
I mean, he can give the explanation. I just wanted to talk about the general part of it. One of the things that the town has had is a second in command in the highway department. And but it's always been kind of an unofficial position. Dale had it, in several months ago. And it was an unofficial road crew leader position. And he handled a bunch of different things. What we're looking to do now, to assist the highway department is actually formalize the position and have a job description that goes with it and have then ultimately have somebody in that role. And you can talk about what the needs are.
Right, yeah, the need is it frees me up to do more of the things I'm doing now. And help, the crew's big enough now where we can split it into, and I have another working foreman who helps me out running a second crew. So.
Plus in Bob's, unallowed
My
absences.
Right. Yeah, in my absence.
We would have somebody that would be able to manage it and be able to be the point of contact for the department.
And also probably hold some accountability with someone as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that too, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And like you said, it's always kind of been unofficial, I just kind of like to see have a title, have its own, yeah,
So
So what you're saying is you want to make the number 2 position in a formal position.
Correct.
Who asked that question?
You know that voice.
You know this voice, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
So during non-public session, this was discussed, but we obviously can't vote in non-public, so we had a draft description for highway crew lead, so I'm gonna make a motion that we had a couple of amendments that we move forward with posting this position with us. Do I say what a starting compensation is?
No, I don't think we finalized that, so, well, yeah, because that's not right on this. Oh, you're
So is
changing.
there a pay increase for this person that comes with the title?
Yes, there is.
And
We've
within
done it in
the
the past
budget,
as well, so.
within the
It's
budget
same
that exists.
responsibility he's had, he's just getting the title for it. So there's no added responsibility,
Well, it's just.
but it's
like I
more money
said,
out
we're
of my
not-
tax pocket.
We're
Well-
not hiring anyone, we're just posting this and then it's open for people to apply.
And we will fall within the budget that existed for that position. It's not an increase over that
So
position.
this isn't just
So-
promoting someone who's been acting as that, we're actually looking for a new position, is that what you're saying?
Right.
So this will be open to the public.
it can be.
Potentially, yeah.
Do we have
So-
a policy?
I was under the understanding that the person that was acting as that now was just gonna get a stamp now, he's got a title on his head.
Right. Well, I mean, that could possibly happen, but I want to
There's
put more
nobody-
responsibility on.
There's nobody in that role financially right now.
Right.
Dan.
Or officially?
Yeah.
Wesley really wants to ask a
I
question.
know.
Well, my question is, so you're opening this to the public. So if you hire somebody from the public, is that creating another job?
No.
Or now are you getting
No,
rid
'cause-
of somebody at the township?
We are-
Because if
we
you
are state-
open it- If you open it to the public and you give it to a public person, the way I understand it, all your positions are filled.
That is not gonna
No.
happen.
No.
So you're
no,
not opening it to the public.
No, it's not all
positions
filled
are
right now.
filled. Yeah,
And not all positions are filled at this point.
We have a part-time position that's going
But
back
that's
to
not
being
a
a full-time.
full-time position.
Right.
it's going
So-
back to a full-time.
So you're talking about creating a position that's not open to the public, correct?
No.
Yes.
It could be open to the public. It may not be right now, but it's, I mean,
So it-
like any position, it's not an open position right now. We have a fully staffed highway department.
I understand that, but you're talking about making this the number 2 position, a full-time position, we'll say. So is that gonna be with applicants, or are you just gonna give it to somebody?
So I think people are going to have to apply and go through an interview process, and Bob is going to conduct that and make the decisions. In my experience, obviously not within municipality, but it's posted for 2 or 3 days internally. If it's not filled, then it can be posted to the public. I don't know how fellow board members feel about that.
So this will be another position essentially.
No,
No,
currently,
Not another head.
it's not another head. The
No.
reality is, we
You're not
have,
posting it to the public. That's all you gotta say. That's all my question is, because if you post it to the public and you give it to somebody outside of the highway department, if all your positions are filled, you either gotta A, create a position, or B, get rid of somebody.
It's my understanding that all the positions are not filled right now.
right, there's one more that we have to hire. There's somebody,
You said it was part-time.
no, there's somebody working part-time that was always a full-time position, and their schedule has become one that they're not really here ever, so we need to put somebody in that position.
Okay.
So we're
that's all-
picking, and we just don't know which one is gonna go.
Right, that's all I'm asking.
Right.
That I was just curious if, because the way you were talking, it sounded like you were gonna create another outside position.
I
That's
don't know.
that's all my question.
That is not the case. Yes, Dan. Thank you for raising your hand, David.
Am I the only one in the room that's confused? I'm in agreement that I think that should be a thing.
Yeah.
But I wanna know how and where the money's coming from. And to me, I've heard, we are gonna make it public, we aren't gonna make it public, we are gonna make it public, we're gonna possibly go from internal, we're gonna take a part-time position and turn it full-time, except for he's a part-time, he used to be full-time, but now he's part-time, but we need a full-time because he's not available.
We're basically, we're hiring an additional position, whichever way
Once I
this
get an
goes,
answer
whether.
to my question, I mean, I'm a taxpayer and I'm asking.
We're short.
questions.
Well, if you're hiring a position and you're opening up a new position, essentially.
All right, all right.
All
All right, Dan, you asked Dan, hold on.
Speaking.
You asked a
I'm
question.
the one that was asking the question. and I
Enough.
had the floor.
You asked a
I had
question.
the floor.
Give us a chance to answer the
I went
question.
down with my question.
How
I
long?
mean,
You
why
just
does it
said,
have to be so controversial that I'm just looking for an accurate answer before we leave here? And what's the problem? I had the floor. I held my hand up. I was called on to ask a
okay,
question.
so
I
ask
asked.
your question. Ask your question, Dan.
Am I the only one in the room that's confused? And how do we get an accurate answer before we leave tonight? Pretty simple question. Who's got an answer? You?
this is, unfortunately, this has led into multiple facets. We
You had
have
time to
people,
figure out the details before you brought it.
Jason? Please don't interrupt.
we have people who have been in the position acting as a second in command with no compensation, no official title on it. We want to create that position as a position in the town. People who have held that position, the money is in the budget to cover that for the remainder of the year. The money is in there. It's just not currently being spent because nobody has been given that position. We also, aside from that, we also have one open position that the man was only working part-time, but it is budgeted as a full-time position. The confusion is coming about, there's two different things here that we're getting crossed in. We haven't decided if we're gonna go public with a posting for this. We'll probably start internally with what is, and see what we get. We've got somebody in mind, we've got a candidate. If it works, there's no reason to go public, but we will at some point be going public to fill that other position. That clear any of it up?
It did for me.
And I just want to add to what Scott said. You know, we're creating the position now. That doesn't mean that we've offered it to anyone or that they've accepted. So it, you know, is customary, I think, to allow people to apply internally. Do we know that it will be filled internally? We don't. So.
And again, I wanna say, I agree that I like the concept. I just wanna know how much money I'm gonna have to pay.
And so that was
Within the budget of it's
Yeah.
currently with the payroll budget for the highway department.
because we had someone in that position at the start of the year when the budget was approved, and then we haven't had someone officially in that role. So that's where the funding is coming from.
Yes, Wes.
I personally agree with Sadie. I think it should be in-house first. You know, I don't want you to think that I have a problem going outside in. My only question was, you were saying that if you were going outside, inside, I thought you were creating another position if you're outside. And Scott clarified.
Apologize
My
for
question
adding
was-
confusion to the discussion.
Right. But I agree with going inside. I think that should be done first. I think anybody that works someplace for a while should have an opportunity and a shot at the job if it.
I agree.
This is a position that really needs to be filled internally if at all possible, because you have to have somebody who knows the working day-to-day operation in order to be able to oversee.
Chet, you're up.
So, first, we have the Canaan modification to the original loan agreement. This is actually the $550,000 SRF loan that was done for the intake project for Canaan for the water system. And basically, we're getting an extension for a year to expend the funds because we still have about $112,000 outstanding. And this is money we're using to offset some of the costs for the water system upgrade. This is going to the design thing. So need to just, make a motion and everybody sign, and that'd be a wonderful thing.
That expires on November 22nd. So it's approved a little-
Yeah, like you gotta actually get it to them like.
I'll move.
Good thing there's
that we-
still fax machines.
Well, now you have email scanners.
And you're taking that
I
with you,
move that we-
Yes, I'm taking it over.
I move that we accept
I've got
this.
3 phone calls on the way here.
Second, she moved, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, John.
This had to go through the governor and executive council.
Before the 22nd?
Oh, no, before the 25th of December, I guess.
Well, you're familiar with those people, but.
Oh, yeah. I know. The lawyer from the executive council will send things that they don't dot i's, cross t's.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, right now, I'm working on a list of all of the warrant articles we're gonna be looking to put on the ballot this year. Unfortunately, because of some, what I'll call housekeeping issues, we're gonna have about the same amount as we had last year. Because there are some that we have to, one has to be replaced. So that actually takes up 3 warrant articles. We have to delete one that wasn't created correctly, recreate it correctly, and then fund it. So it's like, that's the police department. So there's gonna be several warrant articles for that. There's gonna be a couple of corrective warrant articles. I think we just created the buildings last year, and what we didn't do is list what it gets, how we expend it. So we just have some clarification things to do with a bunch of these. And we are also working on a process whereby when we look at our capital budget program, we're looking at what the total appropriation is for the sustainable level of funding for any of those areas, like highway equipment or roads. The goal is that reserve fund will always pay for all of the expenses. So once you approve the appropriations, which aren't gonna grow that much this year, because we are doing some transfers. But what's gonna happen is we have to have the ability to expend, like if there's a lease one in it, that it can be spent that way. And also, I'll use police as an example again. There's multiple items, one of which is cruiser cameras that they have to buy every 5 years or so. And they cost about $125,000. That's a capital item. It was never in there. It was just the cruiser itself. So we have some housekeeping to do to work the processes. So our goal will be and we're also going to create one new one. The goal is to create a road reconstruction one, which would encompass the gravel roads and the paving. We're just going to switch them from the operating fund into a reserve account so that we can have the money carry over, because in a situation where if we had to do some bonding or something, we can still do other roads, but it may be every other year, but we can do one big project as part of it. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, and we'll go into more detail. But there will be significant number of warrant articles, and I think next year should be much better. How's that?
So if we
we
get
have found
2,000
some-
people to turn out for voting,
Red
like
Sox
they did at
fans.
the beginning of November, then we'd be.
Yeah,
in good shape.
and that's the key is we want to get turnout, and my goal is, and anybody who's in one of the committees or things in town, once I get a little bit closer and I can talk, you know, maybe the second half of December, I want to start visiting all of the different committees and groups, whether it's the seniors or the Friends of Canaan Village or Canaan Lake Association, and just start going through all of these conversations, because we are trying to do things so that, you know, while there may be a lease or a bond on a warrant article, knowing that it's not just an additional payment we're gonna be making, it's gonna come from a fund you already have money in. And that's how we're gonna work it. So there's a lot to go over this year, and I wanna make sure we get an early start and try to get the word out that, so we understand it. You know, I'm not advocating that everybody has to agree with it, but if everybody understands it, I think it's a good way to go. I've done it before and it works great. We did have to use financing where I was before to buy trucks for a while because they had let it go too long. But when we started funding this way, we were able to not only finance a couple of trucks, but after year 6, we were buying them cash again. It just allowed us the time to catch up. So we're trying to do a comprehensive plan to get to that point. And also the bridge repair was not on the agenda tonight, but we have a report that we will need to give the go-ahead to the engineer to move with a bridge report, with a preliminary selection
For Gristmill.
Grist Mill Bridge, of the option C, which is the straight one. There have been some concerns raised by a couple of the residents there. And we don't take those lightly, and we are going to be looking at traffic calming and all and those things as part of this. What we would move to from this report would be to preliminary design, and if we run into problems where it can't happen, we still can shift. It's not the final layout, but it does get us closer, and we can identify any of the issues that we're gonna have. So it's the first step in that process. And the other piece of this is the town has paid a significant amount of money for engineering on these bridges to this point. Once we get to preliminary design, the grants take effect and we can get our 80% of the money back. So right now, we want to get it to that next step, because I don't think, there's nothing dramatic that has changed what our first idea is. Now we want to move and start addressing the issues, and then we can also start getting our reimbursement as we move through the design process. So that will be a goal, and
While you're talking about Gristmill, you have a date for the apron paving too as well?
Tentative, within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a tentative date for the grinding of December 3rd,
Oh,
and they
that's
told
right,
me
okay.
that it would be before that.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to get it next week,
Hopefully just before we have.
but it's all
Ron plow
tentative,
through it.
it's all if their schedule, if it goes the way it's
Yeah.
going now, so. They're gonna let me know, so I can let Monica know, so she can let everybody know.
Right.
You know, try and give everyone as much heads up as, you know, they'll be paving, or they'll be grinding on these roads.
Great.
So,
yeah, and just a budget update. I mean, basically, we're moving into the last couple of stages with the budget committee. CIP has concluded, and has prepared their report. And I'm happy to say, based on we basically looked at how underfunded are we in our capital, and it's significant, but we put a 5-year plan to get there. We're not trying to make it up in 1 year, and this year's increase will be very minimal. Actually, we came up with, I think, $43,000 right now.
43,000 something on.
So it's not a big number, but it does start to get us aligned in the correct way. So that we can keep moving, and then we're taking 1/5 of the difference annually to try and make that difference up, so that we can actually get ourselves to the place where we can keep our equipment and our roads and all of our infrastructure operating correctly and on a regular replacement cycle. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Any other business?
I have other business.
All right,
Those two.
Go ahead.
Did someone raise their hand?
you're first.
Okay, so I brought this up to chat, but I just want to have it on the minutes. I have had one of the organizations that filed for nonprofit tax abatement exemption reach out because they weren't aware of a decision. Chet said he thought we voted on it maybe in May. I don't remember that, but it could have been when I was out of town. But then that person also received just recently a first bill and a second bill. So, Chat let me know that Rebel was out for a few days. I just want to make sure that we get some clarification on that and find out, maybe go back through the minutes, see if we actually voted, and if not, we really.
Yeah, we'll check the minutes, but she'll also have the documents that were provided by Todd, so.
Okay,
And then we can revisit it, and if we have to reopen it, revote, we will do that.
okay, great, thank you.
Thomas, Sorry.
I'll try to.
Come right down the line.
I'll try to be as quick as I can. I just want to thank the town for its support. It's been a busy couple of days, including the recount requests and then, so, as of December 4th, the new legislature gets sworn in. However, I found out today at the orientation session, not that I'm asking for this, but Friday at 4 o'clock is the deadline for new bill requests. So if there's something urgent, let me know before Friday at 4 o'clock. In the meantime, if there's, if there's issues directly related to Canaan or the district includes Canaan, Dorchester, and Orange. So if there's a regional issue, please let me know. I want to be a real representative. So whatever I can do to help in chat, I will get on your calendar all day. This week probably won't work for me, and next week is Thanksgiving, and it sounds like you're busy. I'll catch you.
That sounds great.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Hope.
I've got happy news. And party favors. I'm with the Canaan Community Power Electric Activation Plan. And I just wanted to let you all know, we finalized the draft plan, which I have one for each of you. And our intention, we will post it on the website, which we have. The next step will be to have our 2 public hearings. And we, the last time I was here, we talked about having it at the meeting.
Select board meeting. Yep.
Yes, so that is, the first one is December 3rd, Tuesday.
We add that to the,
And I think that I've already emailed. Yeah, and then here's the new rates that through January.
when would the second meeting?
The
Can we
second
get that?
meeting is gonna be January 8th, Wednesday at 3 p.m. here in the EOC.
Okay, that'll be a freestanding one then?
Pardon?
That'll be a freestanding meeting?
Well, that's just, we thought for, people can get here during the day, and if we
Okay.
need to do a snow day, because we
All right.
ran into that
Just
before.
Reach out to Ryan to schedule this room.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Right.
all scheduled, yeah. Yeah, we're happy the plan is done, and
Great.
a big part of the plan was doing the goals and objectives. We basically prioritize lower rates and community resilience and just what Canaan needed. And the public hearings will give everybody a chance to give us input, and we can make any revisions based on whatever public input
Great.
we get. And then it will be voted on another warrant article in March. And
That
that's,
makes 29.
yeah. Okay, well, yeah.
This
And
is,
you have-
Appreciate all the work that's gone into this. It's a tremendous amount. This is a big project and I really appreciate it.
It's fun and it's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm very excited
it's
about it.
just amazing what they make you jump through for hoops.
It's all good.
Yep.
So, thank you.
John?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have a quick one. We applied for the source water protection grant 2 years ago. And that's a 2-part grant that goes along with it. Second part is a sustainability grant that goes along for the part 2 of it.
Okay,
Okay, and I'd like to get approval from the board to apply for that. Okay,
what can it be used for?
it can be used for basically, it's a plan for the next 5 to 10 years for the water and wastewater system.
Okay,
A formal plan that will be given to the town. And won't be involved any of us, it'll be a separate person that'll be actually performing.
okay.
Okay, is that okay with the board?
I have no problem with it.
Okay,
I have an
Okay.
issue with that. You're-
All in
Do you want
favor?
I'll
to-
have Chet sign it, if it's okay with you.
All in
And then
favor?
Make a motion to
Yeah.
approve
You
it
made a
and for me
motion,
to
she
sign it.
seconded it.
And then
All
I
in favor,
sign it.
aye.
Just want to make sure that the wording's correct. and you authorize-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan?
Cause Roger's doing this from a recording.
No. All right. He missed a good meeting.
What is the time frame for petition warrant articles? Is that passed already? I can't remember when the deadline to get
It's
petition.
not, it hasn't passed, but I don't know it off the top. I'd have to go look at that,
January or
my little. handy
It's usually
dandy
early
calendar.
January.
January
Yeah.
fifth or something. Okay, all right. And have we made any payments on our new equipment yet?
No,
When were the payments due?
this next May.
Okay, fair enough. That way I can just give some answers again.
Well, the reason is when we did the lease and when we had the option, we chose the arrears lease. So we pay at the end of the first year rather on the first day.
Understood. And I will explain to the person that's needling me about it. That's exactly why the payments haven't been made yet.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, that's,
Well, and that's another warrant article you're trying to split up since the truck.
well,
order-
that's listed in my grouping. I just,
Oh, okay.
but it's one of the things that because we are leasing it and we're gonna be paying it out of that same money. We are gonna put in a warrant article because actually the lease got split into two. Okay, because two pieces of equipment were available right away. We don't see the other two till this next spring. So it just worked out that way, and because we're gonna be doing some housekeeping to that reserve fund, this will be part of it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yes, John.
This month, we hope we're gonna get an award for the meeting house for Elcha. And if we get it, we'd like to get the ball rolling, and that's gonna need signatures from the town.
Okay.
And if the proposal, which you already approved, is the contract, and it's black and white, there's no changes.
Right.
Could we vote tonight to accept the 74,000 and authorize one of you to sign the paper when it comes? I think they want you, Steve, to sign, if I recall.
That's good, because I can't read my signature anymore, so.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
On the second one, the Moose Plate,
Moose Plate, yeah.
that was like,
They were supposed to award in October. They said we're
no, I
delayed.
understand that. My only question is. If we take the 74,000, is some of the work that would be covered in that grant part of that? Because
Because
then
separate projects.
separate projects, that's what I wanted to make sure. I couldn't remember because it's been a while since. I
Moose
looked.
Plate is just the north wall windows.
Perfect, golden, that's all I wanted to know.
So John, I just want to clarify, you're saying if it comes in and if it matches, then we should sign it?
Yeah,
Is there an urgency or could we wait and so we can
Well-
actually see instead of an if?
it's one of these things that you hurry up and wait. You know, we won't be able to do some things because we won't have a signature. One thing we want to do is we want to pull two windows out in a tower and get those off to the contractor and have him work on those. One advantage for doing that is it expends this year's money, which is already authorized by the select board.
So could we make a motion to say, if all the ifs are true, then we. Like, cause so,
If
cause,
it's consistent with what we submitted,
okay,
what you previously approved as a submission.
all right, so, Roger, I'll make that motion.
And December 3rd is too late.
We don't know. I mean, no, December 3rd may not be too late. If you guys might cancel the meeting because of snow, you know.
We're New Englanders. Okay, so we have a motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let me know if you get it to come in.
Highway Department will let us get here. They might not take care of it or go home.
And I have one more thing. Would Stephen be happy with this text as an approval of what we discussed earlier of the RFP for cyanobacteria?
Oh, gotcha, this.
It's not that long, but he's thinking.
Yeah.
I would be.
If you would sign that,
On your computer?
well, I can send it to you, not here. but-
I'm not trying to interrupt. There's no wave button anymore.
Yes, Jason.
What was that about the cyanic bacteria that he showed you?
I'll read it. It's a letter from the select board to whom it may concern at the November 19th, 2024 select board meeting. The board voted to endorse and support the DES RFP 2025-04 cyanobacteria monitoring and plan development for public water systems surface sources. Proposal to be submitted by Limtex, and the town agrees to employ methods that detect, respond to, and control cyanotoxins in future years, such that the village drinking water is protected. In 2025, the town will provide periodic water samples to Limtex.
Is that what DES does now?
DES is doing some of that now, yes, but they're not, they've got, as John said earlier, there's 27 bodies like us. And DES is doing a little for us this year, but they're not gonna do it continuously on a long-term basis. This doesn't cost the town anything. DES pays a contractor to do this.
It's just having a plan in place and RFP for a plan of cyanobacteria, Jason.
I mean, we're gonna.
I understand that, but is this company gonna do it continuously for the next so many years, or is this the town doing this instead of DES? Because the DES is doing this now, correct?
They're doing a portion of it now. They don't have a plan in place or a remediation in place.
They're taking water samples and analyzing things. This will put a plan in place that says, here's how you detect a bloom. You use this particular parameter and that you, at this particular threshold, you declare that you have to do something different. And inside the plant, there's raw water and finished water, and you test parameters on both those, and you put in some kind of correction, you treat it with some chemical. A lot of that has to be developed. So the plan would be developed as to how we detect cyanobacteria, how we react to it, how we respond to it, and how we keep it out of the finished water going to the village. DES is not doing that now. They're just collecting data about water in the lake.
But DES is requiring us to come up with a plan to deal with cyanobacteria.
By the spring.
Yeah, if this RFP would pay for that development.
Right.
So does the wording in that does the wording in that put us on the hook for the future years that you mentioned?
Well, you're on the hook anyway, because you're not gonna deliver toxic water to the village.
No, I understand.
So you're gonna have
But
to,
that's saying that we will take responsibility of, what if we don't have any money and we can't?
well, then you gotta turn the water system off. Because you're not gonna deliver.
State's requiring it,
to the
Dave.
village.
I understand that, but that's saying that we will take care of it. If we don't have any money, we could at some point ask for help from someone else. That's saying that we will. It's not.
Well,
saying
the
we may
RFP
ask
is
for
only,
help.
the only RFP is only for a year. The state's requiring us to do it. So there's no. You're correct. We could be on the hook for doing it in the future. But the
Well,
state's requiring it for us
But
to
we're
do
gonna
it.
have to be on the hook anyway. We provide the water.
The RFP is to write up the plan to deal with it and get it started on a program.
Is this by DES or is this an outside party?
DES funds the outside party to do this.
So is the outside party paying for the chemicals that are needed to take care of this?
In the first year, yes. But we don't even know which chemical is necessary.
Correct. So what happens if the chemical that is necessary is outrageously expensive 5 years down the road?
Well, you tell the village water people to start buying their own bottled water.
No, but you don't, because in there it says that we'll take care of it no matter what. So you don't tell the village people that we're gonna shut the water off, because they come back to you and say, remember that letter that you wrote November 19th of 2024 that said you're gonna do it?
If it turns out
Just
that
saying, one sentence left out of there can keep us off the hook.
if you can't deliver decent water from the lake, you're gonna have to drill more wells.
Correct, but right now, there's no contract saying that we have to do something other than we supply good water.
This only says we'll provide decent water to the village.
Okay, that's what we're doing now, so why do we need
DES
this?
is No, but Jason, you're missing the point. DES is requiring us to come up with a plan to fight and, how we react to a cyanobacteria blue and how it affects the water. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. This RFP is only for a company to set up what that plan will be, how to identify it, and what our reactions will be.
Correct,
And
but
if we don't do it,
Can we do
we're
that?
gonna have to come up with a plan still. We're still gonna have to come up with the testing thing that the DES approves.
Correct. I understand all that, but can't we do that?
We could, if we want to put out the money to come up with a plan and fund it for the first year. This is an opportunity for DES and this other organization through DES to actually set up the plan and have the expertise to do it.
Oh, no, I understand that, but what, 5 years down the road, what does that do for us?
Well, we're gonna have to keep the plan in place.
Well, I don't, you know, one of the things that.
If cyanobacteria it goes away, then we don't have a problem, but the DES is pretty convinced that cyanobacteria is here to stay and it's gonna be a problem and it continues to grow, be a bigger problem.
And I think the thing that is always an underlying thing when the state environmental groups get involved is they don't know how bad the problem is yet and even how to deal with it. Like, this is a just as much of an information gathering and a planning tool. Then they're gonna have to address what are the water system needs that are gonna be part of this. They don't even know and
No,
they know that
they're
gonna
still
have to deal with
gathering
it.
information.
Yes, nobody knows right now, including them, and at this point, I wouldn't assume that they're gonna just punt on this and say it's the town's problem, because if you have 27 towns have this issue. That's not something that the water systems are gonna be able to afford to upgrade.
Well, it's not just water, so I mean, well,
Yeah.
the state's all over the place. Say to you one more thing, please.
I have something different. So, I just want to remind everyone that may have seen the announcement that tomorrow night from 6 to 9 at Poorhouse, there's going to be a celebration for Sergeant Parabelli, who is retiring after 26 years of service with the town. So it's open to all. We would be happy to see you. There's going to be light refreshment.
Have a motion to adjourn?
So
So,
moved.
well,
Oh,
we didn't come up with a thing. Are we signing that or are we not? What's
did
the
sign
end
it.
game?
We did sign it, Jason.
Okay.
Congratulations to the Mascoma football.
yes.
Yes.
We vote on it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We don't have anything from the public.